Thank you. Please be seated. Good morning, members of the jury panel. First of all, can you all hear me? All right, I'm getting nods of yes. If not, we have hearing assistance devices that are available. My name is Pete Cahill, and I am one of the judges of the district court. And you have been summoned as potential jurors in the case of State of Minnesota versus Derek Chauvin, which is a criminal case related to the death of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020. A person charged with a crime has a right to a fair trial before a fair judge, an impartial judge, and a fair and impartial jury. In order to make sure that the jurors who are selected are impartial, the law provides that the court and the attorneys may ask questions to all prospective jurors, which must be answered under oath. And first, thank you for filling out the questionnaire that was mailed to you and returning it. Your contribution to the important and serious matter at hand is best assured by continuing to provide full and complete answers to the questions that you will be asked today. These questions will follow up on issues from the questionnaire and possibly other topics. Now, after the questioning is over, the attorneys will have the right to excuse some of you from service on this jury, and I may excuse others of you for what we call cause. In either case, it does not mean that you are not a fair person, and you should not take offense in being excused. I also ask that you not take any offense at any question you may be asked. We must pry, to some extent, in order to explore opinions that you hold and to hear about experience that you might have had that might affect your ability to serve in this case. The defendant, Mr. Chauvin, has been charged with murder in the second degree and manslaughter in the second degree. However, during trial, charges in the normal course might be added to or subtracted from these charges, but those are the charges as it stands. To the charges, the defendant has entered a plea of not guilty, which is a denial of each and every material allegation in the charges. And now I'm going to ask the participants to introduce themselves. In the individual questioning that follows, you will be asked if you know anyone here. So starting with the state, and you can remove your mask to be introduced.
Thank you. Would you like me to introduce the whole team? Or,
Everyone can introduce themselves. Mr. Nelson can introduce his client.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good morning, jurors. My name is Steve Slisher on behalf of the state of Minnesota.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christina Marinakis, and I'm here assisting with the prosecution.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Frank. I'm an Assistant Attorney General on behalf of the state.
Good morning, Keith Ellison, on behalf of the state.
And for the defense.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eric Nelson. I represent Mr. Derek Chauvin. This is my client, Mr. Derek Chauvin. Behind me is my assistant, Amy Voss.
Thank you. Now, there may be other attorneys who are present for this case for the state, including Aaron Eldridge, Jerry Blackwell, and possibly other people who work for the Minnesota Attorney General's office. So, is there anyone on the panel, just by raising your hand, who knows somebody from the Minnesota Attorney General's office? Okay, no hands. Does anyone know Mr. Nelson or had any dealings with his office? Okay, no hands. And is anyone familiar with the defendant, Mr. Chauvin? Okay, no hands. You were given a long list of potential witnesses in this case, and hopefully you had a chance to review it sufficiently, because you'll be asked individually whether or not you know or are acquainted with any of those potential witnesses. Now, one of the things the attorneys may not do in jury selection is to instruct you on the law. But I do want you to be aware of some of the basic concepts that apply in all criminal cases so that you may keep them in mind as you answer the court's and the attorney's questions. I will instruct you as follows. First, the charges against the defendant are not evidence, and they create no inference of guilt. No member of the jury should in any way permit himself or herself to be prejudiced against the defendant because a charge has been made against him or because he has been placed on trial. The defendant is presumed innocent of the charges made against him, and in order for you to find the defendant guilty, the state must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant does not have to prove his innocence. The presumption of innocence remains with the defendant throughout the trial unless and until he has been proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt according to the law and the evidence admitted at trial. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is such proof as ordinarily prudent persons would act upon in their most important affairs. A reasonable doubt is a doubt based upon reason and common sense. It does not mean a fanciful or capricious doubt, nor does it mean beyond all possibility of doubt. Now, if you serve on this jury, you and your fellow jurors will be the sole judges of whether a witness is to be believed and of the weight to be given a witness's testimony. There are no hard and fast rules to guide you in this respect, but in determining believability and weight of testimony, jurors may take into consideration the witness's interest or lack of interest in the outcome of the case, the relationship to the parties, the ability and opportunity to know, remember, and relate the facts, their manner, their age and experience, their frankness and sincerity, or the lack thereof, reasonableness or the unreasonableness of their testimony in light of all the other evidence in the case, and any other factors that bear on believability and weight. If on this jury, you should rely in the last analysis upon your own experience, good judgment, and common sense. There are things you should not do, even during jury selection. You are not investigators. You are not to go out to do any looking, and you are not to ask people about this matter. You are not to use the internet to look for information about this case or about the law. Above all, you must not talk to anyone who is involved, the lawyers or the witnesses. Do not be offended if the attorneys, parties, or witnesses do not speak to you. They know that it would be improper to contact you, except through the normal selection process, and they will confine themselves to a brief greeting. Now, during the selection process, your family and friends will be curious as to what you are doing. You may tell them you are on a panel of potential jurors in a criminal case, and that is all you should tell them. And since that is all you should tell family and friends, that is all you should tell the general public. So during these proceedings, please refrain from using Facebook, Twitter, or other social media to announce that you are a potential juror or to comment on this trial. You may access such social media tools, but please do not publish any information about the case or your thoughts about the case. You do not have to stay away from people and refuse to speak to them. Do whatever you wish, but do not talk about the case, and do not talk to anyone involved. Because of the nature of the charges, this case will receive media coverage. Do not read about this case in the newspapers or online, and do not listen to news about it on radio or television. This trial, including jury selection, is being televised, but no video of you or any other juror will be taken at any time, now or during trial if you are selected. Also, your name will not be used in the courtroom. You will only be referred to by your random number. This is not a disrespect, it is to protect your privacy. The audio of anything you say will be broadcast unless we need to discuss something that is deeply personal or extremely sensitive or embarrassing, and I specifically order the audio not to be broadcast. In that case, you will still have to answer questions on the record, but without audio or video broadcast. Now, with the exception of juror number one, we'll have you wait in another courtroom where you came from until it is your turn to be questioned. So you'll please go with my clerk who will escort you to that courtroom. Whether you are in that courtroom or this courtroom, keep in mind, although I took my mask off, it's only so I could be heard during now, and you'll see me put it back on for the remainder. But please keep your mask on and please follow social distancing. We also have hand sanitizer and wipes both available in this courtroom on the back table, but also in the courtroom in which you are waiting. And so with that, I'd ask you to go with the deputy, except for juror number one. And juror number one, we're going to have you come right up here. All right, be seated. Have a seat right there. Good morning. I'm going to have you pull that microphone up close to you.
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you much better then. All right, you're doing well, thank you. So first of all, I'm going to swear you in, so I'd ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm, under penalty of perjury, that you will truthfully answer all questions about your qualifications to serve as a juror?
I do.
All right, thank you. First of all, I think there was an indication that you had a concern you wanted to express to the court. Is that about a language, or
Yeah.
could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I don't speak too much English.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I'm able to be here.
Well, let me talk about that a little bit. I read certain concepts of the law while you were sitting out there. Did you understand what I was saying?
I understand, but
Okay, you said, but were there problems with some of the terms that I used?
some words, but I understand.
Okay.
So,
Do you think that you, and I'm glad you brought this up, so I appreciate that. Do you think that this might be a problem for trial, that because we will have expert witnesses and a variety of people talking
Yeah,
about different things, do you think that might be a problem absorbing everything and understanding all the evidence?
I understand, but the only I know what I see in the TV, and you know.
Okay. I guess what it comes down to is every juror should consider all the evidence. And if your language, speaking English, is good enough that you could understand it, that's great.
Oh, okay.
But also if you feel comfortable expressing your opinion in a jury room, that's also important. So, do you think basically what you've heard today from me in the instructions and in filling out your questionnaire, that you understood the English language well enough to proceed as a possible juror?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But
All right.
not like 100%.
All right, thank you. All right, well, let me turn to a couple of questions before I turn it over to the attorneys. First is, do you believe, now thinking back, you filled out the questionnaire, was everything on that true to the best of your knowledge? Like, is there anything you wanted to change or add to? Because sometimes people will fill out the questionnaire, and then they realize when they get here, oh, I should have probably said this or that, and that's normal. It's not like you're going to get into trouble because you give a different answer, because you are sworn under oath today. It's just a question of, is there anything you wanted to modify or add? Because maybe you had a thought that, since you filled out the questionnaire. Anything? Or is it pretty much accurate as it was? Pretty much accurate?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Now, the court has instructed you right from when you got the questionnaire not to read any articles or watch any media about that, and that was true when you got the questionnaire. Sometimes inadvertently, you might see a headline or someone might talk about it with you, maybe giving you something you didn't know about the case since you filled out your questionnaire. From the time you filled out your questionnaire and sent it in to today, is there anything you've learned about the case? And I'm not saying, that you did so intentionally, but, maybe, like I say, see a headline, hear some people talking, that gave you more information about the case. Do you think that that's happened?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you learn since you filled out the questionnaire?
The questionnaire when I don't know. I mean, because I had time to read and.
Okay, yeah, if you could slow down just a little bit. The court reporter is taking everything down. And I'm going to have you take off your mask just to make it a little more, that's great. So you read an article? Or,
Yeah.
okay, what do you recall the article? What was the substance of it? What did it say? What information did it give you?
About the case for the George Floyd,
Okay,
how die, and I think it's doesn't fair because the guy he asking for he tell the guy I can breathe, so and he's still on top in his neck, So I think also the people who was with him, why don't say, hey, no, don't do that because you're gonna kill. So I think
Okay.
it's not good.
And is that something you read after you filled out the questionnaire?
Many questions.
Or before?
Too many questions, you know.
Yeah.
I read.
But this newspaper article where you got this information?
No, I send the TV.
Okay.
You know, I'm working and I have to take care of my kids, and I don't have too much time to be in those things. So just what I see in the TV, but
Okay.
I don't have time
Okay.
to read newspaper or not. Just like what I saw in the TV.
All right.
So
What it comes down to is it's just about everyone has seen or read something. The question becomes, can you put all that aside? Because as a juror, you have to decide the case just on the evidence you hear in the courtroom. Do you think you could do that?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not speak too much English, and
Okay.
I don't want.
Okay. Did you recognize any of the witnesses?
On the TV,
Or on the list that we gave you?
just one name right here is Korean. I don't know where he's from. I remember the TV, the name,
Okay.
Chinese or Korean. I don't know where he's from.
And what was the name you remember?
It's right here. Sorry. I can find.
While you look for that, I'm going to talk to the attorneys. So you can keep looking, and I'm going to talk to the attorneys. Sidebar, please.
So, yeah, I think Tao to Tao.
Tu Tao? And do you actually know that person or just?
No, just I send the TV.
Okay. Just like what you've read in the media or something? All right. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Nelson, and he's going to ask you some questions. So if you could continue. Now, one of the things that happens when we're doing jury selection is as everyone talks to each other, we sometimes get into a habit of being conversational, which is okay, but conversations that are informal, we talk over each other, we say or we need yes or no, and not to talk over each other. And the lawyers are just as guilty of it half the time, so about talking over each other. So I'll try and control that part, but make sure you try and wait for the question to be finished and then give the answer. Mr. Nelson, if you would.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And you can go to the podium.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you today?
Good, thanks.
So before I go too much further with my questioning, I just wanted to ask a couple of follow-up questions first on what the judge was asking you about. Would that be okay with you? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So just remember, we need to use words in the courtroom because everything is being typed down, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for being here today. The judge asked you some questions. It's my understanding you indicated that you had a concern about your language.
Yes.
Can you say what it is more specifically, because you seem to be doing very well answering our questions. What are your concerns about your language?
Well, I understand, but sometimes I afraid to say the wrong word, but most of the time.
Most of the time you understand? Okay, that's good. In terms of this case and the testimony that you hear during the course of this case, you're going to hear testimony from a lot of different type of people, okay?
Okay.
So you may hear from police officers, and you may hear from citizen witnesses, people who saw what happened, but you may also hear from doctors, right? People who have use big words a lot. Would you be concerned about your ability to understand what a doctor or an expert witness might say?
You said concern?
Concern.
No, I think
Okay.
I'm going to understand.
So if they're using medical terms, you'd be able to understand that?
I think so.
Okay, good. So your language, I think, is pretty good.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I just have so I'm going to ask you a series of just some general questions before I ask you some specific questions about what you wrote in your questionnaire, okay?
Okay.
So my understanding, ma'am, is that you received a notice from Hennepin County telling you that you were going to be a juror, or you could be a juror in a case, right?
Yeah, they sent me the questionnaire.
With the questionnaire? Okay. What was your first response to when you read that letter and the questionnaire?
My first, I say, why me? Because it's
That's-
first time, and so I don't know, But I try to fill out the questionnaire because I say I don't know if I had to be there or because it's first time and I'm working, I
Okay.
had 3 kids, so I say I don't know if I'm gonna have time,
Okay,
but I'm gonna try.
great. So your first thought was, if I understand you correctly, is why me, right? Is that a yes, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As you were filling out the questionnaire, and it was asking you specific questions about this case and your perceptions about this case, did it concern you more because of the nature of this case versus other cases?
Yeah.
How so?
I say that case just only I know because I saw on the TV,
Right.
I wasn't there, and
Okay.
so
I understand you weren't there, but does the profile of this case concern you?
say again.
So there are lots of, maybe I'll rephrase my question if that's okay. There are a lot of types of cases that come to court. Sometimes it may be someone steals something from a store, right? And nobody ever hears about it, right? But this case has been in the news a lot. You would agree with that? Is there anything about the fact,
Yeah, sorry, yes.
sorry. Is there any, but this case has been in the news quite a bit, right?
Yes.
Have you only seen one news story, or have you seen many news stories?
No, like I said, I'm so busy at work and, I'm housewife. And sometimes when I had time, I turn the TV and I saw and watch this case because just in the TV, every day.
Every day.
And
And even since you filled out this questionnaire,
I had like, they say, oh, why it has to do that, I mean,
so
I don't-
let me because you're saying something I think very important here, and I want to make sure I understand, okay? You saw some videos about what happened. Is that correct?
Yeah, the news.
On the news? So you saw a video that many people have seen of the arrest of Mr. Floyd. Yes?
Second when,
So did you see a video of Mr. Floyd being arrested by the Minneapolis Police Department?
oh yes,
Yeah. And what I think you said is you had a reaction to that video. Would that be correct?
yeah, I saw when that guy put his, I don't know, leg or knee on the, so he can breathe,
Okay.
and he asking for,
And did you form an opinion about what you saw? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, it's very awkward. It's not like real life. What was the opinion that you formed when you saw that video?
my opinion is when he tell the guy I can breathe, and he still do that, And I remember when I saw another police around him, and I said, why don't say, hey, don't do that because he's gonna die. So I said, why? Just, what I feel, that's not fair because we are humans, And he said, hey, I can breathe. He was on top on him. So he doesn't, he can move, he was on top, so.
Okay. So your job, if you were to be selected as a juror in this case, would be to hear all of the evidence in this case. Do you understand that? Is that a yes?
Yes.
And you may see that video again in this trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
But you may also hear or see other videos from different angles and different perspectives. Would you be okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. The question then becomes, if you see, are you willing, let me rephrase this, are you willing to examine all of the evidence to make a determination about this case?
Yes.
The opinion that you had before, when you first saw the video, would you be willing to change that opinion if you find other information out later?
Well, it's true, Yes.
What is true?
It is true, whatever evidence.
So, again, I need to just be, we have to be very clear here, okay? Would you be willing to re-examine your opinion today if you see other evidence that change it? Would you allow it to change your mind?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, I'm going to just ask you some more general questions, if that's okay. All right, just a little to learn a little bit more about you. Okay.
Okay.
So let's pretend that you and I met each other at a party rather than a courtroom. Okay. Can you just tell me one or two things about you that you would want me to walk away knowing about your life?
You want to know about me, you say?
Yeah.
Like
What's important to you in your life?
my family.
Okay. Can you tell me a little about your family? No names or anything, but just tell me, do you have children?
Yes, I have 3.
Okay.
My oldest, he's 25. My second one's 17. My little girl's 8.
Okay. And have you talked about this, the fact that you're coming here today with your family?
No, just my husband.
Just your husband? Okay. Have you told any of your friends that you were going to be here today?
No, just my manager.
Just your manager
At work.
at work? Good. Did you tell anybody that you filled out this questionnaire?
No, just my husband and I.
Okay, just your husband. Did your husband help you fill out the questionnaire?
Yes, because like I said, my English is buried, and I understand, and but my writing
So you,
not good.
okay. So your husband actually wrote the answers here?
No, I did, but he helped me some questions.
So he helped you read the questions? Is-
Yeah, and sometimes I look for the translation, and I write the answer.
Okay, so you had to actually use a dictionary to look up a word that you
Yeah,
didn't know?
Google Translation.
Okay, Google Translation. Now, there were certain questions on the questionnaire that you did not even write in a response to. Do you remember that?
Too many questions, okay, I don't remember.
Okay, and did you keep a copy of it?
No.
Okay. So, I think we've talked a little bit. The first question was what you remembered or what you had heard about this case, and we've talked about that somewhat this morning. So, but you didn't answer that question in the questionnaire. Was that because you didn't understand it, or?
Yeah, if I didn't, it's because I don't understand.
So if you did not answer a question, it was because you didn't understand the question?
Yes.
So let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, just in terms of your language, how good do you think your English is? 1 being bad, I don't speak any English, and 10 being I'm wonderful at English.
No, I'm not wonderful. I don't know.
You don't know?
7.
7? That's good.
Just say 1 to 10?
1 to 10, yep. Okay,
8.
7, 8? All right. So for work, you work as a nursing assistant?
Yes.
Okay. And do you work with many clients?
No, labor deliver, maternity.
Okay, maternity? Okay. But you do have 3 kids, right?
Yes.
So can you think of a situation where your kids had an argument with each other? Did your kids ever argue with each other?
My older, he is very nice. Also, he has learning disability,
Okay.
but he's wonderful kid. And my second one, he's 17. He's in high school, and he's so quiet, and sometimes he's angry because they have a lot of homework. Sometimes he don't want to talk to him because he's busy on the computer all the time. And my 8 years old, she's not good at math, so she said, "Ma, I need help with math." But I said, "I'm from Mexico, and in Mexico they teach different than here." So I try, but my husband helped him more because he likes math. My husband, I don't like. He need a lot of help. My baby girl.
Okay.
In school.
So your family sounds lovely and wonderful, and
Thank you.
I guess my question is, have you ever had to resolve a conflict between your children?
Conflict? No.
Okay.
Like you said, they fight. I mean,
Well, it could be physical fighting, or
No,
what about yelling at each other?
no. I teach. They are brothers and sisters. They need to respect each other. No.
Okay.
Thanks God, no.
So,
Sometimes my second son and my little girl, my little girl try to play with him, but my second son is very reserved, you know. He focus only study, not play. So, but thanks God, they never hit each other or are with. No.
okay.
It's,
So outside of your family, can you think of a situation where you were asked to settle a dispute between two people?
say again.
Like resolve or fix two people who are arguing with each other?
If I sat outside and
In any way, like if at work,
I work,
or at home or in your extended family?
I work, no, in my family, no. I work just when my coworkers, they mad, you know, angry. I have one friend, and she told me, you always speak for your rights, and if you have something, problem with the person, go speak to her, you know. But I don't see people at work fighting. Or,
So what I'm trying to, I guess, and maybe I'm not asking it clearly enough, what I'm trying to understand is how would you decide? Because in a trial, right, there's two sides against each other. And your job as a juror is to decide what are called the facts of the case. What happened, right? Who's telling the truth? How do you do that in your personal life, and how do you think that would help you be a juror in this case?
well, in a personal, to be a juror,
Would the court like
Is-
to inquire further?
No. Mr. Slusher, did you wish to approach?
I do wish to inquire.
Okay, you may. Okay. We're just gonna talk, so
Okay.
you can just, hold on.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry about the interruption. Can you think of a situation in your life where two people have told you a story about an incident, and one person says, this is what happened, and another person says, no, this is what happened? Do you understand that?
yeah,
Okay. Can you think of a situation like that just in your head?
yes,
And these two people are telling two different stories about the same incident. Okay? How do you determine, what tools would you use to determine which person is telling the more accurate story?
it's a hard question because, like you said, I need to see this and the other person. So
I guess,
I need to see who is telling the truth.
and how do you determine who is telling the truth?
with evidence.
Okay, good. Now, in terms, again, of the concept of evidence, right? You're going to hear a lot of evidence in this case, right? You're going to hear from many witnesses, you're going to see many pictures, you're going to see all sorts of evidence, right? How would you rank the importance of what you see? Like what's better evidence in one sense in your mind than other types of evidence?
Like I said, I'm gonna speak how I feel, like inside, how I see the things, and
Okay. In terms of one answer on your questionnaire, I just have for you, the question asked, why do you feel that you want to be a juror on this case? That was the question. And you wrote, because I would like to give my opinion of the unjust death of George Floyd. Do you remember writing that?
yeah, I think,
What did you mean by that?
My opinion, like I said, what I saw, I said why he do that, why the guy he's shocking.
Okay. So you made a determination in your mind, you made a decision already, right?
Yes,
If you see evidence from a different perspective, are you willing to change your mind?
yeah.
Yes? Okay. Your Honor, if I may just have a sidebar and.
We're going to actually excuse you, so you're released from your jury service. You don't have to check in with the jury office or anything like that. If you have your yellow lanyard and the letter, do you have the letter with the number on it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just take that. You can leave it on the stand there.
This one
And
here?
right, and then you can go with the deputy. Thank you for taking the time to
Thank
fill out
you.
the questionnaire and to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, Greg. Hold on. All right, just for the record, we had sidebar conferences in which defense made a challenge for cause. State responded and opposed that cause challenge. I think it was primarily based on her English proficiency. I denied the motion for cause basically because it did not appear that it was the language per se that was causing difficulties. It was more she's not a sophisticated witness or a sophisticated juror, but that's true of native English speakers. And so I did not think that that was a proper challenge for cause. But given that there was some concern about her lack of understanding of legal terms, which again, not so much language, but just her sophistication, I could see why a defense peremptory would be exercised, and it has been. So that is defense peremptory number one. With the marvels of communication, I've had an ex parte contact from former retired Judge Robert Small, who is watching the proceedings, and said that he can see the juror in the plexiglass. He said it's very hard to make out any details, and in fact, when I got that text, I looked and I could see vague outlines. I'm not concerned too much, except I have emailed the court administrator to have somebody up here over the lunch hour to remove the plexiglass. I think since the witness stand has plexiglass on it and everyone is remaining masked to a great extent, I think we can fudge a little bit on that so that there is not a reflection of the juror at all. It is not a horrible reflection, and you can even check it out over the lunch hour if you wish. But it's going to be my order that when we have a chance, we remove the plexiglass. But it's not so vital and so clear of what the witness looks like that I think it has to be removed immediately. Mr. Slisher, did you have something?
Apologize, Your Honor. I'm just wondering if there's anything that could be done with the lighting that would make that go away quickly. Sometimes if you just dim it a little bit, it'd change the reflection.
We'll try everything we can. These lights are not dimmable, but there might be some other options, and I'll consult with the appropriate people who can maybe give us an idea on that.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for the record before we proceed?
Not from the state.
All right. Thank you. We'll go to the next year. We're going to take a 5-minute recess because the chief judge needs to consult with me. So